Chapter 1: The Wrong Rebirth. When I opened my eyes, I expected silk sheets. Maybe a maid weeping at my bedside. Or, if heaven was merciful, moonlight through palace curtains. Instead, I got something rotating. A spinning, rattling, hissing circle of metal that looked ready to decapitate me. I sat up so fast my head spun. The bed groaned in protest. Around me, strange glowing boxes. Empty cups. Half-eaten. What were those? Dried worms? What realm of punishment is this? I whispered, clutching my chest. Something shrieked beside me. A sharp, beeping, repetitive sound. I screamed. It screamed back. I grabbed a pillow and flung it at the creature. It fell off the small table and continued shrieking from the floor like a vengeful spirit. "Cease your cries, demon box!" I shouted, grabbing the nearest weapon. A stick with strange fibers at one end. I would later learn it was called a mop. At the time, it was my divine sword. Just as I prepared to smite the beeping devil, the door burst open. And there he was, tall, handsome, dressed in white that clung to his chest like it had feelings. His hair was messy in that deliberate, dangerous way. He held a cup that smelled like roasted beans and mystery. He froze. I froze. Then he said, voice full of disbelief, "Why are you holding a mop like a sword?" "To fend off demons," I snapped, pointing the mop at the still screaming monster. "That cursed box has been howling since I awoke in this forsaken den." He stared at the alarm clock on the floor, then back at me. "You mean my alarm?" "Alarm. So that's what they call evil spirits here." He sighed, walked over, pressed a button, and the shrieking stopped. Blessed silence. I lowered my mop slightly. "You have tamed it." I turned it off. "Same thing," I muttered. He gave me a long, suspicious look. "Did you hit your head or something?" "Possibly. The gods might have thrown me into this world as punishment," I said. He laughed, disbelieving. "Right, the gods. So what did you do to end up in my dorm room?" I looked around at the battlefield of trash and glowing contraptions. "It does seem fitting." He smirked. "You're weird. You're insolent." We stared at each other, me in my wrinkled, oversized shirt that didn't feel like mine, and him holding his cup like a man too comfortable in chaos. Then my stomach growled. Loudly. He grinned. "Hungry amnesia boy?" I froze. "Wait, what did you call me?" "Amnesia boy. You really don't remember anything, huh?" he said lightly. I blinked. "I suppose not. Who are you, then?" He looked startled for a second, then smiled, easy, warm, a little teasing. "Right. Guess introductions are in order. I'm Wang Xian, your roommate, supposedly." "Wang Xian. And you claim we are companions?" I repeated slowly, tasting the name like an unfamiliar wine. "Roommates, don't make it sound weird," he corrected, amused. I frowned. "In my world, sharing quarters is quite an intimate arrangement." He choked on his drink. "Wow, okay. Definitely not how I meant it." I sniffed at the cup in his hand. "What is that aroma? Ambrosia? Liquid blessing?" He raised an eyebrow. "It's coffee. Want some? Ko-fi." I said it carefully like a spell. "Yes, I desire it." "You got money?" he asked with mock seriousness. I frowned. I was of high rank once, though my memory is clouded." He chuckled. "Sure you were." I decided not to argue. The gods clearly had a cruel sense of humor. My attention drifted to a box humming in the corner. I opened it, cold air rushed out like a ghost. Inside, strange bottles and packages glowing under white light. "A cold coffin of gluttony," I gasped. "That's a fridge," Wang Xian said, trying not to laugh. I ignored him and picked up a bottle filled with brown liquid. The label said cola. I unsealed it. It hissed like a snake. I dropped it instantly. "Poison." Wang Xian doubled over laughing. "It's soda. Oh my God. You really have no idea, do you?" I glared at him. "You mock me, yet your heart is kind." He grinned. "Or maybe I'm just entertained." I hated how his smile seemed to light up the room. Probably witchcraft. I caught sight of myself in a mirror hanging on the wall, and froze. The reflection was me. But not. Younger. Sharper. A stranger wearing my confusion. I leaned closer. "Who are you?" I whispered. The reflection mouthed the same words. I screamed. And fainted. The last thing I heard before darkness took me was Wang Xian's voice, warm, teasing, impossibly gentle. Wow. Definitely possessed. Chapter 2 Welcome to the Future. When I woke again, I honestly thought I'd finally returned to the palace. Maybe the cold stone walls, the faint scent of sandalwood, the soft weight of silk sheets. But no. Instead, I found myself staring at a giant painting of a half-naked man holding a sword made of light. My first thought was, I've died again. And this time, I've gone to a very questionable afterlife. Before I could gather my wits, the door creaked open and he walked in again. That strange man from before, the one with eyes like mischief and hair that looked deliberately messy. Wang Xian. "Oh good. You're awake. I brought breakfast," Wang Xian said, setting down a tray. Breakfast, apparently, was bread as pale as my face, eggs fried into tiny suns, and a black potion in a paper cup. I blinked at it all. Where are the maids? Maids? Wang Xian looked around like I'd asked for dragons. The servants. The musicians. The eunuchs. He snorted. Yeah, none of those live here. Just me, your unpaid babysitter. I narrowed my eyes. You speak boldly for a servant. He laughed. I'm not your servant, Mingyan. I'm your roommate. Roommate. What a dreadful word. It sounded like a disease you caught from poor hygiene. Wang Xian slid the paper cup toward me. Drink this. It'll help with the headache. I sniffed it suspiciously. Bitter. Burnt. Tragic. It smells like sorrow. It's coffee modern people run on it. Wang Xian said. I used to run on spite. Same thing. Against my better judgment, I took a sip. My face twisted instantly. Disgusting. Why would anyone drink burnt bean water? Wang Xian grinned. Because it keeps us alive. Like taxes and trauma. I decided I liked him, in the same way one likes a tiger from behind sturdy bars. Gorgeous but potentially fatal. After breakfast, Wang Xian began what he called basic orientation. Apparently, I'd been reborn in a world ruled not by emperors but by glowing boxes and tiny rectangles that people whispered to as if they were lovers. This is a phone, he said, handing me a shiny slab. I turned it over in my hands. A communication artifact? Sure. Let's start easy. Press here. I pressed the screen and it lit up. I screamed. Wang Xian almost dropped his cup laughing. It's fine. That's the lock screen. There's a spirit inside. It moved. That's your reflection. I saw it wink. That's a filter. He spent 20 long minutes trying to teach me how to unlock the device. Swipe and type. I typed one word, help. The thing buzzed violently in my hands, and I threw it across the room. It vibrates when it gets notifications. Wang Xian wheezed between laughs. It shook, like a possessed rabbit. He wiped tears from his eyes. Oh man, you're a disaster. I like it. I glared at him, cheeks burning. Cease your mockery. Can't, you're too entertaining, he said cheerfully. Then came the microwave. Wang Xian placed a bowl of noodles inside a metal box, pressed buttons, and it began to hum and glow like a witch's cauldron. I took 3 steps back, clutching my mop sword, which I had wisely reclaimed. You're cooking with lightning. Wang Xian snorted. Relax. It's just heating the food. By summoning fire spirits? By radiation. I gasped. You feed me poison? It's fine, it's government-approved poison, he said, completely serious. The box dinged. Steam rose like ghostly breath. Peered inside, awed. It's alive again. You're talking about ramen, right? Then came the toothbrush. He handed me a stick with bristles. Use this on your teeth. I stared at it. You expect me to brush my teeth with a miniature broom? Yes. Why not chew mint leaves like a civilized man? He face-bombed. Just try it. So I did. I squeezed the paste, it foamed instantly, and I choked. This is not food, I spat. Obviously. Don't swallow it. Wang Xian shouted, half laughing, half panicking. You could have said that sooner. At some point, Wang Xian gave up trying to explain his strange world and simply watched me fumble through it, grinning like I was his favorite form of entertainment. While he laughed, I found a silver mirror that reflected my face oddly. I reached out to touch it and it talked back. FaceTime. You just called someone. Wang Xian shouted, lunging toward me. Who? Before I could blink, a stern woman appeared on the screen. Hello? Who is this? Why are you calling the dean's office? I froze. The Imperial Guard has answered. Wang Xian dove for the phone. End call. End call. I stared at him, horrified. You consort with royal officials? That's the dean, she runs the college. He wheezed out of breath. Oh! After what felt like my fifth near-death experience of the morning, I collapsed onto the bed. Wang Xian leaned against the desk, arms crossed, that infuriatingly warm smile on his face. You're doing great, he said. I narrowed my eyes. You mock me again. No, I mean it. Most people can't even handle midterms, and you're out here surviving time travel. Wang Xian said, voice calm now. Something about his tone made my chest ache. Not the sharp kind of pain, but the soft, dangerous warmth of spring after a long winter. I looked away. You're too kind. It's suspicious. Maybe, or maybe I just like lost princes who think fridges are coffins. Wang Xian said, smiling. Stop calling me that. Fine. What should I call you then? I hesitated. I don't remember my name anymore. For a moment, Wang Xian was quiet. Then he said gently, then we'll find you a new one. When I looked up, his smile wasn't teasing anymore. It was soft, real. And for the first time since waking up in this absurd, glowing, demon-infested world, I felt something dangerously close to peace. Later that night, when Wang Xian left the room to take a call, I stared at the little glowing phone again. I poked it once. It didn't scream this time. Progress. Then the screen lit up, catching Wang Xian's reflection as he walked back in. His smile bright, steady, and warm. And my treacherous heart whispered, maybe the gods weren't punishing me after all. Chapter 3 of Study and Suffering. Morning in this strange world begins with screaming. Not the melodic bells of a temple or the subtle rustle of silk curtains. No, this was a metallic banshee shrieking from my phone at dawn. I groaned and dragged the blanket over my head. Even demons had the courtesy to wait until sunrise before tormenting me. Come on, sleeping beauty, came Wang Xian's lazy drawl. My sunshine demon, my relentless tormentor, and apparently my alarm clock in human form. He stood beside my bed holding a cup of steaming coffee, that same burnt sorrow in liquid form. We've got class. I squinted up at him. Class? What class? College, you're enrolled. Remember? He said. I did not. So this realm also believes in torturing its citizens with education. He smirked. Basically, by the time we reached what he called campus, I was certain I had stumbled into the bureaucratic layer of the underworld. Giant buildings loomed, each named after dead scholars, and people drifted about staring into glowing rectangles as if possessed. I leaned toward Wang Xian. Are they under enchantment? They're texting. Communicating without speech? Witches. I muttered. Don't say that out loud, you'll get cancelled. He warned. Cancelled? I'll explain later. He said that a lot. He never did. Our first lecture was modern literature. The professor, a balding man with glasses sharper than daggers, began to speak. Today, we'll be discussing emotional motifs in postmodern fiction. I raised my hand. He blinked. Yes. Minister of Knowledge, what is postmodern? Has the empire fallen again? I said solemnly. Silence. Then, laughter. Loud, merciless laughter. Minister of what? Is he role-playing? Dudes in another timeline. I wanted to sink through the floor. Meanwhile, Wang Xian, traitor that he was, sat 2 rows behind me, grinning like a cat watching a noble trip on his own robe. After class, I glared at him. You didn't stop them. He shrugged, eyes still dancing. You were adorable. Adorable is not a compliment for warriors. You're not a warrior, you're a poetic disaster, he said. Next came essay writing, a cruel invention involving a glowing box that eats your soul one word at a time. Wang Xian peeked at my screen. You wrote a love letter? It's an essay on emotional resonance and longing. It reads like you're proposing marriage to a metaphor. That's called style. He laughed. Your professor asked for analysis, not a confession to the moon. The moon deserves devotion, I said, offended. He reached over and ruffled my hair. You're something else. His fingers lingered for just a moment, warm, gentle, and my breath caught. In the palace, touches had always been cold and deliberate. Every gesture meant politics. But this was just warmth for its own sake. And I didn't know what to do with it. Days blurred. Lectures, mistakes, laughter, noodles, his teasing grin. Wang Xian started walking me to class every morning. He claimed it was faster, though he took the long route every time. One afternoon, as we waited outside a lecture hall, he handed me something small and white. Here, for you. I held it carefully. Jewelry? He laughed. Not quite. Earphones. I examined the two little white pearls connected by a string. For decoration? He grinned, stepping closer. For music. Music. Yeah, you'll see. Before I could retreat, he gently placed them in my ears. His fingers brushed my skin. Light, casual, devastating. Now press play, he murmured, holding out his phone. And then sound. Music blooming out of thin air, smooth and endless, wrapping around me like silk. I gasped. There are musicians inside. He laughed softly, voice low near my ear. Just a recording. I didn't understand the word, but I didn't care. His nearness, the melody, the faint warmth of his breath. Everything blurred. You like it? He asked. It's beautiful, I said. Yeah, it is, he replied quietly. I wasn't sure if he meant the song. That night, pretending to study, I caught my reflection in the laptop screen. Hair a mess, hoodie too big, eyes half lost and half found. In the palace, mirrors had reflected only loneliness. Now I looked almost alive. I thought of the emperor, of waiting for affection that never came, of smiling while my heart starved. And now there was this boy, this chaotic, golden-hearted fool who made me laugh and curse and feel, terrified me, because I knew what happened when hope returned. It demanded more. Still, when he knocked on my door later, holding 2 cups of instant noodles and grinning like an idiot, I smiled back. Study break? He asked. Only if the noodles are not cursed. They're chicken-flavored, so mildly cursed, he said. I laughed. An unguarded, ridiculous laugh that startled even me. Maybe this world wasn't so terrible. Maybe, just maybe, I hadn't been punished after all. Chapter 4, The Feast of Fried Chicken. In the palace, feasts were delicate affairs. 10 dishes arranged like poetry, each bite measured, each smile rehearsed. You ate with grace, not hunger. You starved beautifully and called it refinement. Here in this new world, feasts come in plastic boxes. When I opened one, the scent hit me like divine retribution. By the heavens, is that the smell of paradise? Or sin? I breathed. Wang Xian grinned, holding a golden drumstick like a weapon of temptation. Both. Welcome to fried chicken. He handed me a piece, hot and gleaming with oil. I eyed it as one would a sleeping beast. It looks alive. It's dead. Very dead. That's what makes it good. I took a bite and ascended. The flavor exploded in my mouth. Crisp, juicy, chaotic. Oil dripped down my chin. I froze, horrified. It attacked me. Wang Xian nearly choked on his drink, laughing. It's not attacking you, you're just messy. In the palace, I ate in silence and grace. Yeah? Well, in this palace we burp and live freely, he said, raising his soda can in a toast. I pointed at his cup. That hissing potion again? Soda. Try it. I sipped. Immediately coughed. It bites. He snorted. It's carbonation, not teeth. The bubbles move. This drink is alive. He fell back on the couch, wheezing with laughter. Oh my God. You're killing me. Then we are even. Your food tried to drown me in flavor. I snapped, wiping my chin. After the chicken came a new horror, a tall cup of milky liquid filled with dark pearls. What demon brew is this? I demanded. Bubble tea, he said, stabbing a straw through the lid and offering it to me. I took a cautious sip, and the black spheres shot straight into my mouth. I nearly shouted. It attacked again. He collapsed against the counter, laughing so hard he cried. I spat one pearl into a napkin, glaring. Your world's cuisine is violent. Violently good, he said, still laughing. You drink this willingly? Every day. You're deranged. You're dramatic. You mock me. Constantly. Despite my outrage, my lips betrayed me with a smile. Everything here was absurd. Food that fizzed, drinks that chewed back, glowing walls, captured music. Yet it all lived. This world pulsed with energy, loud and senseless and full. After our feast, Wang Xian began cleaning up, humming under his breath. I watched him from the couch, knees drawn up. In the palace, silence had been heavy. You didn't speak unless invited. You didn't laugh unless someone else found it appropriate. Here, his laughter filled the room without permission. No fear, no decorum, just warmth and noise and life. He noticed me staring. What? I was thinking, how strange it feels to eat until I'm full. He paused, then smiled, soft, almost sad. Get used to it. Something in my throat tightened. Later, he made me watch movies. Moving wall paintings with unnatural realism, he said, Netflix, I called it sorcery. Halfway through some heroic man in tights saving the world, my head drifted against his shoulder. Hey, falling asleep already? He murmured. MHM. You okay? For a long moment I didn't answer. Then the words slipped out before I could catch them. No one ever laughed with me before. He went very still. I almost regretted saying it. But it was true. Laughter had always been something I observed, never shared. Wang Xian's voice came low, steady. Then you've been around the wrong people. I smiled faintly. That's a bold statement, peasant. He chuckled. Peasant? I'll have you know I could buy this whole dorm. I blinked. You're wealthy. Something like that. You have servants? Technically. Then why live in this humble dwelling? He smirked. Because you're here. My heart stopped working for a full 3 seconds. I turned away, pretending to yawn. You say strange things. Only when they're true, he murmured. The movie flickered across his face, shadows and color shifting like candlelight. His reflection glowed faintly in the screen. Too close, too warm. I didn't move. Neither did he. At some point, I drifted off. When I woke later, a blanket had been tucked over me. The room was dim except for the pale glow of his laptop. Wang Xian sat there typing quietly, face soft in the light, every line of him calm and beautiful. I turned my head away and pretended to still be asleep. But my chest ached again, not from loneliness this time. Something gentler, something I didn't yet have a name for. Chapter 5: Viral Royalty. I thought I was getting the hang of this strange world. After a week of college life, I had not set fire to the microwave, nor had I mistaken the blender for a device of execution. I'd even mastered the art of summoning food through the glowing app. Though I still bowed respectfully to the delivery men. They seemed confused, but politeness costs nothing. Progress, I told myself. I was thriving. Then I met my greatest foe yet. The vending machine. I had seen it before in the dormitory hallway. A tall, glass-fronted shrine filled with bright offerings. I assumed it was for worship. Maybe the local gods liked shiny packages and fizzy potions. But then Wang Xian approached it, pressed a few buttons, and the box gave him food. No chanting, no offering, no decree stamped in gold. Just food. I watched scandalized. Witchcraft. Later, When hunger struck and Wang Xian was away at class, I decided to challenge the metal beast myself. "All right, demon box," I said, standing before it like a general on the battlefield. "We shall negotiate terms." I inserted one of his coins. Yes, coins, because I refuse to believe paper can hold value, and pressed the glowing button with a picture of something fried and promising. The machine blinked. Then nothing. I pressed again. Still nothing. "Do you defy me? I am a royal concubine. I once dined with emperor." The vending machine remained unmoved. My pride snapped. I kicked it. "Insolent contraption. You dare deny me snacks." And then click. A bag fell to the bottom with a soft thunk. I gasped. "Ha! You yield to your superior." That's when I heard laughter. I turned and saw a student filming me with his phone. "Say that again for TikTok," he said. Tick what? I had no idea that was the beginning of my public disgrace. When Wang Xian came home that evening, I was blissfully unaware of my downfall, enjoying the spoils of war. 3 bags of chips, salty and divine. He entered the room laughing so violently I thought he'd gone mad. "Oh my God, Li Mingyan." He could barely breathe. "What?" I asked, instantly suspicious. He shoved his phone into my hands, tears in his eyes. On the screen, me, standing before the vending machine, eyes blazing, yelling, "You dare deny me snacks? Insolent contraption." It had millions of views, thousands of comments. "Bro talks like a Disney prince lost in a Walmart. Someone protect this man. He's national treasure energy. This is peak reincarnation content." My blood froze. I have been exposed. Wang Xian collapsed onto the bed, wheezing with laughter. "You're trending. They love you. This is humiliation. My honor. My dignity. What if the emperor sees this?" Then I remembered my emperor was centuries dead. That didn't help. I must disappear, grow a beard, change my name. He was still laughing. "Relax, Your Highness. The internet loves you. You're basically famous now." I do not wish for fame. Fame invites assassins. Nowadays, it just invites sponsorships. What in the 9 heavens is a sponsorship? Don't worry about it. He grinned. You've officially gone viral. I do not wish to contract any disease. He snorted so loudly his drink nearly came out his nose. It's not that kind of viral. For the next hour I sulked, pacing like a caged tiger while he giggled every few minutes at the video. People are laughing at me. In my old world, that would have been a punishable offense. He looked up, softer now. In your old world, laughing could get you killed. Here, it just means they like you. That stopped me cold. He smiled gently. You make people happy, Li Mingyan. That's rare. I turned away, pretending to be interested in a chip crumb. They think me a fool. Maybe, but a lovable one. Lovable? I repeated, heart doing something treacherous in my chest. Yeah, you look like a fairy tale prince who picked a fight with technology. I wanted to scoff, to tell him he was being ridiculous, but the words wouldn't come. He was standing close enough for the warmth of his breath to brush my cheek. Don't worry. Even if the whole world laughs, I'll be laughing right beside you. My throat tightened. You mock me again. Always, but gently. That evening, he insisted we celebrate my fame with dinner. The restaurant sparkled like a royal banquet hall. People whispered when they saw him. A few even bowed their heads slightly. I leaned in. You are known here? He shrugged. A little. How much? Enough to own the place. I almost choked. Own it? You told me you were a student. I am. A rich one. I gaped. You're richer than the emperor. He grinned. Maybe, but I don't make my friends kneel. That shut me up. As we left, he handed his jacket to a worker standing by the door. Keep it, he said quietly. It's cold tonight. No pomp, no pride, just kindness. And for a moment, I thought, how strange. In my past life, power came with cruelty. But this man carried his power like sunlight. Later, back in the dorm, he showed me fan art. Someone had drawn me in royal robes holding a bag of chips like a scepter. I groaned. I despise this. then added grudgingly, "It's well drawn." He laughed. "You're handling fame better than I expected." "Barely." He looked at me for a long moment. Then softly, "You don't have to be perfect here, you know? You can just be." The way he said it made something tremble inside me. I met his gaze, and for a heartbeat the world went silent. Then I looked away, pretending to yawn. "You say the strangest things." He smiled. "Then I'll keep saying them until you believe me." That night, I lay in bed staring at my reflection in the phone's dark screen. Not the concubine who'd once lived in fear. Not the ghost of a forgotten court. Just me. A man covered in oil stains, crumbs, and a ridiculous kind of joy. And as the glow of the phone dimmed, I thought maybe being laughed at wasn't shameful at all. Maybe it was what freedom sounded like. Chapter 6: Dreams of the Past. Sleep used to be my only escape. In the palace, I used to drift into dreams where the emperor would look at me, just once, with something that wasn't indifference. Spoiler alert, that dream never came true. But tonight, even centuries and dimensions away, my dreams betray me again. I'm back there at the cold palace. The stone floors gleam like mirrors, but not in a good way. Everything reflects emptiness. The wind howls through cracked windows, and the silk robes around my body feel heavier than chains. I hear footsteps. The emperor's. He doesn't speak. He never did. He just looks at me like I'm a stain on his sleeve. Something that accidentally existed. "Your Majesty, did I displease you again?" I whisper. His eyes flick past me to the next concubine, already smiling prettily with fresh rouge on her lips. It hurts. Gods, it hurts like being skinned from the inside. I reach for him, but the dream shatters, and I fall, breathless, into the dark. I wake up with a choked sound. The dorm room is quiet except for the faint hum of the air conditioner, that weird cold wind box Wang Xian controls with magic buttons. My chest aches. My face is wet. I sit up too quickly, breath ragged, the ghost of those marble halls still pressing on my heart. For a moment, I forget where I am. Then I see the glowing computer screen, the pile of laundry, and Wang Xian's messy desk with his ridiculously expensive laptop half open. Right? Not the palace. Not the emperor. Still, the ache lingers. The loneliness doesn't vanish overnight or, apparently, over centuries. I curl my knees to my chest and wipe my eyes with the sleeve of my hoodie, a word I still find unworthy of such soft fabric. That's when I hear his voice. "Hey!" Wang Xian's half-asleep drawl comes from the other bed. His hair is a mess, sticking up like a rich man's disaster, and his eyes blink open slowly in the dark. "You okay?" I flinch. "Yes, I am." My voice cracks traitorously. "I am simply battling inner demons." He sits up, rubbing his eyes. "At 3 in the morning? They don't keep business hours," I mutter weakly. Wang Xian studies me for a second, then gets up. The soft light from the hallway spills in as he walks over and sits on the edge of my bed. In the dim glow, he looks ordinary. No aura of wealth or confidence, just sleepy concern. "You had a nightmare," he says quietly. I nod, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. "Want to talk about it?" I shake my head. If I speak of it, it might crawl back into the room. He doesn't push. Instead, he just sits there. Not moving, not talking, just there. And for some reason, that helps. After a moment, he reaches out, slowly, and takes my hand. His palm is warm, grounding. My instinct is to pull away, because in the palace, touching without permission could get you killed. But I don't. His thumb brushes the back of my hand, gentle circles that remind me I'm here. Alive. Human. You don't have to tell me, but you don't have to face it alone either. Something in my chest twists painfully. I look at him, at his soft eyes, the faint stubble on his chin, the way he tries to act casual but fails miserably. "You are very strange," I whisper. He smirks. "You're one to talk, vending machine night." That earns a weak laugh from me. My first sound of something almost like relief. I wipe the last of my tears. "You must think me pathetic." "No, I think you've been hurt. That's different." His words hit deeper than I want to admit. In the palace, compassion was currency. No one gave it freely. Yet here he was, giving it like it cost nothing. We sit like that for a while. His hand still in mine, my breathing slowly matching his. I think about the emperor again, how he never once reached for me. How I used to sleep beside a man whose body was warm but whose heart was colder than marble. And now, this stranger, this modern boy with coffee breath and messy hair, holds my hand like I might break if he lets go. It's ridiculous, unfair, dangerous. My heart doesn't know what to do with kindness. So I do what I always do, joke my way out. Are you certain this is not some noble act to seduce me? I say weakly. Wang Xian raises a brow. Would it work if it was? Absolutely not. Then no. He grins, but his eyes are still soft. I sigh. In my past life, the only time a man touched my hand was when he ordered me to pour his wine. Then, consider this a better sequel. He murmurs. At some point, my exhaustion wins. I must have drifted off again, because the next thing I know, the morning light creeps through the blinds. Wang Xian is still there, sitting awkwardly in a chair beside my bed, head tilted, asleep. He must have stayed all night. Something in my chest goes very, very still. In my world, no one stayed. Not for love. Not for loyalty. I stare at him. This lazy, generous idiot of a man who probably could buy a country but still eats instant noodles with me. And something warm unfurls inside me. It's terrifying. Why are you still here, when you could have anyone? I whisper. He stirs but doesn't wake. I smile faintly. You're a fool. But my fingers, traitorous things, reach out and brush his hair from his forehead. It's soft. I pull back quickly, flustered. Definitely a fool. I mutter. Later, at breakfast, he acts like nothing happened. He slides a mug toward me. Coffee, it helps after nightmares, he says. I stare at it suspiciously. It smells like burnt despair. He laughs. You'll get used to it. He drinks his own like it's water, grimacing slightly. Still awful, though. For a moment, we just sit there, sipping misery and pretending not to notice how close our hands are on the table. And for the first time in a long, long time, I realize something. Maybe love doesn't have to be grand or tragic. Maybe it can just be this quiet morning, warm hands, and someone who stays. Chapter 7, Lessons in Freedom. When Wang Xian told me he was taking me to a park, I imagined a refined garden. Perhaps koi ponds, a pavilion, the gentle clink of porcelain teacups. I wore my nicest shirt, combed my hair, and even applied that sweet-smelling lotion he swore wasn't perfume for girls. Then we arrived, and I discovered that this park was chaos incarnate. Children shrieked like banshees. Lights flashed in unnatural colors. Machines howled and spun. The air smelled of sugar, oil, and mortal terror. Behold, the amusement park. Wang Xian declared grandly, arms outstretched. This is a place for joy, I asked. He laughed. Yeah, for joy, fun, and overpriced food. Without permission slips from the emperor? There's no emperor here. The words hit harder than I expected. No emperor, no courtiers, no watchful eyes, just sound and motion and life. A place for joy that required no permission. I whispered it under my breath, tasting the words like a forbidden spell. A place for joy that does not require permission. He gave me a curious look, but I only smiled. Some ghosts didn't need explaining. His first act of corruption was food. Try this, he said, handing me a stick of pink fluff. I examined it suspiciously. It appears to be a cloud? Cotton candy. It looks edible but insincere. Eat it. I took a bite. The cloud vanished on my tongue. Sweet. Impossible. Absurd. My eyes widened. This is sorcery. Sugar sorcery, he said, grinning. Soon my fingers were sticky, my lips pink, and laughter spilled from me like something I'd forgotten I owned. When I caught my reflection in a vendor's window, hair mussed, mouth sugared, I barely recognized the man smiling back. This version of Li Mingyan looked alive. Next came a metallic beast that hurled humans through the air. The roller coaster, Wang Xian said proudly. It resembles an execution device. Then prepare to die happy. Before I could object, he'd already buckled me in. We climbed higher and higher. I gripped the bar. Why are we ascending to heaven at such alarming speed? Wait for it, he shouted. And then the world dropped. I screamed, loudly, shamefully. He laughed, wild and radiant beside me as we plunged and twisted. And somewhere between terror and exhilaration, something inside me broke free. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking of palaces or titles or the ache of unreturned love. I was just living. When it ended, I stumbled out on trembling legs. That was your first roller coaster? Wang Xian asked. That was my first near-death experience. I gasped. He doubled over laughing. We spent the afternoon conquering every ride he could drag me to. I even defeated him at a shooting game, which he insists was luck and I insist was destiny. He bought me a ridiculous hat with fake animal ears. You look cute, he said. I will exile you, I replied. He grinned. Worth it. By sunset, the sky burned gold. Our final ride was the Ferris wheel. We sat side by side as the cabin rose slowly into the evening light. The city stretched beneath us, a sea of glittering life. It's beautiful, I murmured. Yeah, you are, he said softly. I blinked. What? He coughed. I said it is. He absolutely did not, but I let him pretend. His reflection in the glass watched me. Steady, gentle, terrifyingly real. He reached over to brush a bit of sugar from my cheek. You smile like it's your first time breathing. Maybe it is, I whispered before I could stop myself. He didn't tease, didn't speak, just looked at me as the wheel carried us higher, until the world below blurred into stars. For a heartbeat, it felt like freedom had shape, like light, like laughter, like him. When the ride ended, he offered me his hand. Careful, Your Highness, don't trip on your royal robes, he teased. I took his hand despite my pride. His grip was warm, grounding. As we walked out, he stopped to tip a worker sweeping the path. You give him money for cleaning? I asked. He works hard. He deserves it. Wang Xian said simply. That was him in one line. Absurdly rich, impossibly humble, and maddeningly kind. The emperor I once loved ruled by fear. Wang Xian ruled by kindness, and somehow it worked better. Back at the dorm, I collapsed onto my bed, hair smelling of sugar and wind, face aching from laughter. In the dark, Wang Xian's voice came softly. Had fun? I think yes. You think. I am unaccustomed to joy. It takes time to process. He chuckled. Then we'll just have to keep practicing. As I closed my eyes, I thought of the Ferris wheel again, of his reflection in the light, the world spinning quietly beneath us. Maybe freedom isn't the absence of walls. Maybe it's the presence of someone who makes you forget they ever existed. Chapter 8, The Confession He Can't Hear. I had always thought love was a battlefield. Turns out it's quieter than that. The night it happened, the city was humming with summer, warm breeze, streetlights glowing like fireflies, and somewhere in the distance, someone butchering karaoke. Wang Xian had dragged me out for a late-night walk, which, in his language, meant, let me look devastatingly casual while pretending we're just roommates. He wore a plain shirt and sneakers, ordinary, except I'd once seen the logo on his wristwatch at a jewelry store online. The price had so many zeros it looked like a royal decree. And yet, he never acted like he owned half the city. He just smiled, bought me cheap ice cream from a roadside cart, and laughed when I struggled to unwrap it. You don't have to peel it like an orange, he said, amused. Everything in your world is unnecessarily complicated. At least in my time, desserts came on plates, not sticks. Yeah, but I think I like it better this way. We walked in silence for a while, the night air brushing past like a sigh. Something had been building between us for days. Quiet glances, accidental touches, the warmth that lingered too long when our shoulders brushed. I ignored it, of course. Denial is my favorite modern coping mechanism. Then he stopped walking. Hey, he said, voice strangely careful. I turned, mid-bite. His eyes were different tonight, steady, but trembling at the edges, like he was standing at the rim of something vast. I need to tell you something. I blinked. You're not dying, are you? Because last time someone said that to me. He laughed softly, breath-catching. Then, I'm in love with you. The world stilled. For a heartbeat I didn't breathe. My heart forgot how. He just said it, plainly, like it wasn't a sin. You what? He smiled nervously. I know you're still figuring things out, but I can't keep pretending. I love you. The way you laugh, the way you talk like every object personally offended you, the way you're learning to live again. I love all of it. I froze. Every instinct screamed, run. Love, that word used to mean chains. It used to mean hurt. Once I'd begged for love, waited for it through endless winters beside a man whose touch was duty, not devotion. And now, here was Wang Xian, this ridiculous, kind, sunlight-made human, offering it freely. My throat tightened. I cannot. He stepped closer. Why not? Because I don't believe in love, I said, and my voice broke like glass. He shook his head immediately. Then let me make you. My chest twisted. I wanted to believe him. I almost did. But love had been a weapon once, and I'd barely survived the last round. You shouldn't. I'm not who you think I am. I whispered. I don't care who you were. I care who you are now. Then you're a fool. Probably, but you're worth it. That was what shattered me. He meant it. Every word. I could see it in the tremble of his hands, the steady ache in his eyes. And that terrified me more than anything. I stepped back. Then another. Don't, he said softly. I have to. You don't. I do. My hands were shaking. You don't understand. In my past life, love was something you earned by bleeding for it. And when you gave it freely, it destroyed you. I don't know how to be loved without fear. He looked at me like I'd said something sacred. Then let me show you. I can't. He took one step forward, eyes bright beneath the lamplight. You don't have to say anything now. Just don't run away. But I already was. Because every heartbeat felt like the echo of that cold palace. The empty promises, the warmth that always vanished too soon. I couldn't risk believing again. Not yet. Maybe not ever. So I did what I always do when something feels too real. I smiled. You're kind, Wang Xian. Too kind. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. And that's dangerous for me. Then I turned and walked away before he could stop me. The night air hit hard. My ice cream melted down my hand, sticky and useless. Behind me, silence. No footsteps. No calls. He let me go. And somehow that made it worse. Because the emperor would have commanded. Wang Xian respected. I wanted to scream, to cry, to turn back and tell him that his words had cracked open something inside me I thought long dead. But all I could do was keep walking. Later, in the dark dorm room, the city lights painted quiet stripes across the floor. He wasn't home yet, maybe giving me space, maybe hurting. I pressed a hand to my chest. The silence there was unbearable. He loves me, I whispered to no one, then softer, bitter. And I don't know what to do with that. When he returned, I pretended to be asleep. He didn't wake me, just moved quietly, the faint sounds of keys and laptop clicks filling the air. Then, near my bed, I felt a shift, a pause. His hand hovered near my hair, stopping just short of touch. And a whisper, so soft it almost wasn't real. I'll wait. The light clicked off, and I lay there, eyes burning, trying not to cry. Because in the palace, no one ever waited for me. And I didn't know if I was ready for someone who would. Chapter 9, The Modern World Bites Back. They said this world was free. But freedom, as it turns out, comes with assignments, Wi-Fi passwords, and midterms that make you question your will to live. I, Su Mingyan, former imperial concubine and once master of tea ceremonies and palace etiquette, have been vanquished by calculus. Why? Must numbers rebel against their natural order? I asked the ceiling of our dorm room. Across the room, Wang Xian didn't even look up from his laptop. You're talking about algebra again, aren't you? Algebra? Is a war crime in disguise. This cursed script of demons. Why does it include letters? Numbers should not fraternize with the alphabet. He laughed, that deep, warm sound that always made the air feel lighter. You know, most people don't fight their homework out loud. I am not most people, I said with dignity, holding up my notebook, now covered in incomprehensible squiggles and the faint scent of despair. I was once praised for my calligraphy. Now look at me, scribbling these arcane shapes. He finally looked up, soft brown eyes gleaming with amusement. You look adorable, if that helps. It does not. Adorable is for kittens and fools, I said, though my ears betrayed me by turning red. He shrugged. Then you're a very distinguished fool. Later that evening, when I was ready to declare academic defeat, Wang Xian quietly slid a neat stack of handwritten notes toward me. Every formula was explained, every example broken down in a way even a reincarnated concubine could understand. His handwriting was elegant, the kind of effortless neatness that screamed good upbringing and better education. I looked up suspiciously. Did you write this for me? Maybe, he said, pretending to check his phone. Why? Because I don't like watching you frown like the world ended. Also, if you fail, I'll have to drag you to summer classes and I'm lazy, he said. Ah, you're motivated by sloth. How noble, I said, pretending to be unaffected. He smirked. You get me. I don't. Not really. Wang Xian is an enigma wrapped in a hoodie. One moment, he's the chill guy next door who survives on instant noodles. The next, I find out the sports car he borrowed belongs to his family's private collection, or that the restaurant we just walked into is one of his father's investments. Why didn't you tell me you were rich? I blurted once, scandalized. He had blinked at me, genuinely confused. Would it have changed how you eat fried rice? Fair point. Still infuriatingly humble. In my old world, wealth was a weapon, a thing people flaunted to crush others beneath their silks. In his, it was just background noise. He never used it to control, never demanded gratitude. And that unsettled me more than gold ever could. Chapter 10, Rain and Realization. It started with a drizzle. Not the gentle poetic kind that inspires verses. No. This was the rude, uninvited, umbrella-shattering type of rain that ambushes you just when you've bought hot food. Wang Xian and I had just left the convenience store, my hands full of snacks I couldn't name but had learned to love. The first raindrops splashed on my cheek, and I glared up at the heavens. Typical. Even the sky enjoys inconveniencing me, I muttered. He laughed softly beside me. You think the weather's personally out to get you? I was an imperial concubine. I have a history with unfair fates, I replied with tragic dignity. The drizzle became a downpour in seconds, the heavens clearly siding with my enemies. People scattered under awnings. Wang Xian cursed quietly, grabbed my wrist, and we ran. Or rather, he ran, I flailed. My shoes splashed through puddles, my hair plastered to my forehead, and the hot chicken skewer I was carrying valiantly gave its life to the storm. Save yourself, I yelled to it, dramatic as ever. Stop yelling at your food. Wang Xian laughed, pulling me under a bus stop. His white shirt clung to him, transparent in parts, and I, being tragically human, looked away too fast and too late. Your robe is indecent, I said. It's a shirt, and you're soaked too. I looked down. My clothes clung to me like betrayal. This world was not designed for dignity. He chuckled again, shaking his head. Then, without a word, he shrugged off his jacket, dark, expensive, the kind that probably cost more than my entire reincarnated existence, and placed it over my shoulders. It was warm, heavy, smelled faintly of cedar and rain. You'll freeze, I protested weakly. I'm fine. You look like a drowned cat. He leaned against the glass wall behind us, drenched but smiling. I was a royal once, show respect. Fine. You look like a royal drowned cat. I huffed, but the corner of my mouth betrayed me. A smile slipped out. It always did, around him. The rain fell harder, a gray curtain between us and the world. Cars hissed through puddles, lights blurred like watercolor. For a long while, neither of us spoke. The sound of rain was too loud, too alive. I found myself staring at it. The way it danced on the pavement, wild and unstoppable. In the palace, rain had always meant isolation. When it stormed, I'd been locked inside my quarters, alone, staring at the walls while the sound of thunder echoed through emptiness. Every drop had felt like a reminder of what I'd never have. But here, under this leaky shelter, shoulder to shoulder with someone who laughed without cruelty, it didn't feel lonely. Felt like something I'd been waiting for. Without thinking, I whispered, "I think I don't hate being alive anymore." He turned to me, surprised, then soft. "That's a start," he said quietly. For some reason, those simple words undid me more than all the grand confessions I'd once dreamed of hearing. "No, I will cherish you. No, you belong to me. Just, that's a start." I laughed shakily. "You make it sound like I've been auditioning for happiness. Maybe you have, and maybe you passed." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was fragile like a held breath. Raindrops traced paths down his face. His hair was plastered to his forehead. His shirt half-transparent. His eyes impossibly warm. He reached up, fingers gentle, and brushed the wet strands off my forehead. My pulse jumped. He didn't speak. Just looked at me like I was something worth memorizing. In that moment, I remembered the Emperor, how his touch had always been calculated, how every affection had been a transaction. This was different. No claim, no command, just quiet care. My chest tightened painfully. I wanted to lean closer, to see if his lips were as warm as his smile. But I couldn't. Not yet. My heart, stitched together with centuries of fear, wasn't ready to risk breaking again. I stepped back, breath catching. "Not yet," I whispered. He froze, then nodded once. "I'll wait." And the thing is, I believed him. He said it without hesitation, without that desperate weight of needing something in return. Just calm certainty, like waiting for the rain to stop, knowing it eventually would. When we finally made it back to the dorm, dripping and exhausted, Wang Xian disappeared into his room for a minute. He came back with 2 mugs of steaming cocoa and 2 towels that probably came from some luxury hotel. I stared at him. "Do you carry fine linens wherever you go?" He grinned. "Rich habit. Don't judge." I wrapped the towel around my shoulders, trying to hide the stupid warmth spreading in my chest. "You really are ridiculous." "Maybe, but you're smiling again," he said, sitting beside me. I hadn't realized I was. I looked down at the cocoa, rich, sweet, comforting, and murmured, "In the palace, I never smiled without permission." He leaned back, voice soft. "Then I'll make it a rule here. You're required to smile whenever you want." I rolled my eyes. "Terrible rule. Enforced by hugs," he added teasingly. "Unacceptable." He laughed again, head tilted, and I had to look away before I smiled too much. Later that night, when he fell asleep at his desk, I caught myself watching him. He looked peaceful, unguarded. The type of peace I used to think was reserved for the gods. And for a fleeting, foolish moment, I thought, maybe this life wasn't a punishment. Maybe it was a second chance. I reached out, hesitated, then brushed a stray lock of hair from his face. He stirred slightly but didn't wake. "Not yet," I whispered again, but softer this time, almost like a promise. Chapter 11, The Festival of Lights. If someone had told me that this world had festivals too, loud, bright, full of laughter, I would have thought they were lying. In the palace, festivals were delicate affairs. Silent smiles, controlled joy, and the faint scent of loneliness under candle smoke. Here, this was chaos made beautiful. Lanterns lined the streets like floating stars, each painted with wishes in shaky handwriting. Children darted between stalls holding skewers of glowing candy. Couples strolled hand in hand, and even the air seemed to hum with happiness. Wang Xian had dragged me here, of course. He claimed it would be fun. I had my doubts. The last time he said that, I ended up on a roller coaster screaming like a dying rooster. "Stop looking so suspicious," he said now, smiling as he bought 2 paper lanterns from a stall. It's not going to attack you. You say that, but so did the vending machine. I muttered, eyeing the fragile sphere. He laughed, warm, rich, alive. You have trust issues with objects. I have trust issues with everything, I corrected. He didn't argue. He never did. He just handed me a brush and a small pot of ink. You're supposed to write your wish on it before we release it. I blinked. A wish? Yeah, something you want. Big or small. I stared at the blank lantern, at the little swirls of ink dancing on the surface of the pot. In my past life, wishes had been dangerous things. Too close to hope, and hope had teeth. But Wang Xian was watching me expectantly, and for once, I didn't want to disappoint someone kind. So I dipped the brush and wrote slowly, carefully. To love without fear. My hand trembled a little when I set the brush down. I don't know why I wrote it. Maybe because it felt like a wound I hadn't noticed still bleeding. When I glanced up, I realized Wang Xian had seen it. His eyes softened, but he said nothing. Just smiled. Small, understanding, and somehow respectful of my silence. He turned back to his own lantern and scribbled something quickly. Done. What did you write? I asked. Trade secret. That's unfair. I showed you mine. He smirked. You looked adorable while writing it. Consider me repaid. I glared. He only laughed harder. We wandered for a while after that. He bought me candied hawthorn skewers. Sweet, sticky, addictive, and I nearly cried when I saw a goldfish game. I used to keep koi in the palace pond. They were the only ones who listened to me, I said, crouching beside the tank. Because they couldn't swim away fast enough? He teased gently. I gasped in mock offense. I'll have you know I was a wonderful conversationalist. He paid for a scoop because of course he did, effortlessly flashing a platinum card that made the vendor blink twice. Stop showing off your riches. I hissed under my breath. He shrugged. It's not showing off. It's supporting local businesses. You're insufferably virtuous. When night fell, the crowd gathered by the river. Hundreds of lanterns rose into the dark sky, glowing like fireflies. The reflection in the water shimmered like a second heaven beneath our feet. I don't know why, but I felt small then, in a good way. Like the world was vast enough to hold all my past mistakes and still have space left for something new. The world feels big, I murmured without thinking, watching my lantern drift upward, carrying my shaky handwriting toward the stars. Wang Xian's voice came quietly beside me. It's smaller when you're not alone. I turned. He was looking at me. Not with that teasing grin he usually wore, but something gentler, steady. Before I could respond, he reached out, fingers brushing mine. Just that, a touch. But my chest stuttered anyway. In the palace, hands had always taken power, control, affection as a transaction. This one simply held. I didn't pull away. Maybe because I didn't want to. Maybe because I was tired of being afraid of good things. Then the fireworks began. The first one exploded across the sky, a bloom of red and gold. The next painted it blue. Light reflected in Wang Xian's eyes, and for a moment, I forgot to breathe. He turned toward me slightly, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off him despite the chill night air. His hand squeezed mine once, like he was checking I was still real. I looked up at him. You're drenched again, I said weakly, because words were safer than feelings. He smiled. It's not raining this time. Then why do you look? Because you're glowing, he interrupted softly. And just like that, I forgot every clever retort I'd ever known. The world blurred into color and sound. Fireworks blooming. The scent of roasted chestnuts in the air. Laughter rippling down the riverbank. And yet, somehow, all I saw was him. He lifted a hand, slow, hesitant, like asking for permission. When his fingers brushed my forehead, tucking back a strand of hair, my breath caught. It was such a small touch, but it was the kind that meant everything. I didn't flinch, didn't freeze, didn't retreat. For the first time, I just let it happen. His thumb brushed lightly across my temple, and then, with infinite care, he leaned forward and pressed his lips against my forehead. Not possessive, not demanding, just there. Warm, gentle, healing. It lasted only a heartbeat, but it felt like something inside me, something long locked away, finally exhaled. I stepped back, looking up at the lanterns fading into the night. That was too much, he asked softly. No, just enough, I said, smiling faintly. He grinned then, a little bashful, which was unfairly endearing. Don't look at me like that, I muttered, turning away to hide the heat in my face. Like what? Like you're the wish I didn't mean to write. That shut him up. For once I had rendered him speechless. I took small, smug comfort in that. When the fireworks ended, we walked back through the thinning crowd. The world felt lighter somehow, the kind of lightness that comes when you realize you're not haunted, just healing. I glanced at Wang Xian beside me, hands in his pockets, humming quietly, as if kissing me had been the most natural thing in the world. And maybe it was. Maybe, for once, something could just be, no court, no schemes, no fear. Just two souls, holding on to warmth beneath the last glow of the lanterns. Chapter 12, Kisses and Clarity. Started with rain again. Not the loud, dramatic kind that demanded attention, but a gentle drizzle that whispered against the window pane, like the sky itself was trying not to disturb anyone. Wang Xian and I had spent the afternoon at his penthouse. Penthouse. I still couldn't say the word without feeling like I was committing a small sin. In the palace, my room had been lined with silk. Here, the walls were lined with books, art, and the faint scent of coffee. And somehow, this place felt less like a prison and more like a heartbeat. He was sprawled on the couch, laptop open, glasses sliding down his nose. Yes, he wears glasses when he reads spreadsheets, and yes, it's an unfair level of attractive. I sat across from him, pretending to study. My laptop screen glowed with the same paragraph for the last 15 minutes. My mind, however, was in the past. I used to think silence was safety. In the palace, words were weapons. Secrets were survival. And love was just another trap you learned to smile through. But now, every quiet moment with him felt different. Safer. Louder somehow. Wang Xian, I called. He looked up. I think... My voice trembled before I could catch it. I think I should tell you something. About me. Before this life. He set his laptop aside without hesitation. No questions. No impatience. Just that calm, steady gaze that always seemed to say, take your time. I'm here. I exhaled. In my old life, I was someone's concubine. All this time, you may think I'm joking, but I wasn't. I lived in gold halls that smelled like roses and regret. I thought I was loved once, but it turned out I was just convenient, like a pretty vase to fill a lonely corner. And when he doesn't want me anymore, I was left to die quietly. When I dared to look up, Wang Xian's eyes were darker than usual, but not with anger. More like sadness. You don't have to say anything? I murmured quickly, embarrassed. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Another world, another body. Even I barely believe it. He shook his head. I believe you. I blinked. You do. He smiled faintly. I've seen you fight my coffee machine like it was an assassin. You speak like poetry and curse like an emperor. I'd be more surprised if you weren't from another era. I tried to scowl, but my lips betrayed me with a smile. You're impossible. Patient, not impossible, he corrected gently. The rain outside deepened, wrapping the room in silver. He stood, walked over, and sat beside me. Tell me more, he said. So I did. About the loneliness, the masks, the way every act had strings attached. How I'd learned to read affection like a contract, to survive on crumbs of attention and call it devotion. At some point, my hands started shaking. I didn't notice until he took one in his, grounding me. His thumb brushed my knuckles, slow and careful. You thought love was a chain, he said quietly, echoing something I hadn't even realized I'd said aloud. I nodded. A beautiful one, but still a chain. Something that tied you down, made you small. He looked at me for a long time, the corners of his lips softening. Maybe it was, but this time it can be wings, he said. Something broke open inside me then. Not painfully, more like a lock finally giving way to light. I didn't mean to cry, but the tears came anyway, messy and warm. You shouldn't have to fix what someone else broke. I'm not trying to fix you. I just want to stand beside you while you heal, he said, brushing a tear with his thumb. It was the simplest promise I'd ever been given, and somehow the hardest to accept. I leaned forward before I realized it, forehead resting against his shoulder. His shirt, white, expensive of course, was soon damp with both rain and me. Sorry, I'm ruining your clothes, I mumbled. I can buy more shirts, I can't buy another you, he murmured. I laughed through a sob. That was disgustingly smooth. Worked though, he said softly. We stayed like that for a while. His heartbeat thudded under my ear, steady and human. In the palace, I used to count the seconds between footsteps to know if I was safe. Now I counted heartbeats. His heartbeats. After a long time, I pulled back slightly, our faces inches apart. His gaze flickered to my lips, then back to my eyes, asking, never assuming. And for once, I didn't want to run. I nodded. The kiss was nothing like the ones I'd known before. Those had been performances, duties dressed as affection. This one was quiet, slow, honest. His lips were warm against mine, careful as if afraid I might break. My hand found the side of his neck, feeling the soft tremor beneath his skin, and something inside me whispered, home. When we finally parted, he rested his forehead against mine. Both of us breathing too fast, both too full of words we didn't need to say yet. I think that for the first time, I understand what freedom feels like, I said hoarsely. He smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. Freedom and love don't have to be opposites. Maybe not. Maybe they're the same thing if done right. I traced the edge of his collar absent-mindedly. He kissed my temple. Then we'll keep doing it right. Outside, the rain softened into mist, and for a heartbeat, I thought the universe was exhaling too. Later, when he went to make tea, because of course he brews tea like a scholar warrior. Expensive leaves, perfect temperature. I wandered to the window. The city lights shimmered below, millions of tiny lives moving on, unaware of the small miracle unfolding in this quiet room. I touched my lips, still trembling slightly, and whispered to the reflection, I think I finally believe in second chances. And somewhere behind me, Wang Xian's voice came softly. Then let's make the most of ours. Chapter 13, The Choice. It began with silence. Not the peaceful kind, like the hush of dawn before the birds wake, but the heavy sort that hums behind your ribs, waiting to break. Wang Xian sat at the edge of our shared couch, a man who looked like he'd wrestled the heavens and lost. Not because they'd beaten him, but because he didn't want to win. His phone was still glowing on the table between us. The screen flashing Wang Group International. Confirmed departure? He hadn't touched it in 10 minutes. Neither had I. You're glaring at that thing like it owes you money, I said finally, trying for a smile. He let out a quiet huff. In a way, it does. Or maybe it's trying to buy me. I tilted my head. Your family's empire calling, is it not? He gave a small, humorless laugh. They want me to manage the overseas branches. Big move. Big expectations. Bigger trap. His words were casual, but the way he stared at his hands gave him away. Strong fingers, capable of holding everything, trembling like they weren't sure what to hold on to anymore. So, you're leaving? I asked softly. He looked up. If I go, I'd have to stay there. At least a few years. His jaw tightened. So, you're abandoning me for foreign lands, I said, popping another. He sighed, raking a hand through his hair. It's not abandoning. My family's pushing hard. They want me to manage the international branches. It's big. I raised an eyebrow. Big like a dragon's lair or big like the emperor's ego? He laughed, soft and weary. Both. But there's one problem. I can't just go and leave you here. That stopped me. Once, someone had left me behind without blinking. The emperor had walked away with promises in his mouth and power in his hands. I had waited until my heart cracked. This time, I refused to be the one waiting. Then we go together, I said simply. He blinked. What? You heard me. Together. You'd leave everything? Your classes, your friends, the city. I looked around our little apartment. The chaos of textbooks, half-dead plants, and the hoodie he always accidentally left on my chair. None of it felt like home without him. I've already lived one lifetime of staying obedient, staying silent, staying broken. I want to go where the wind is. His gaze softened, cautious hope flickering. Where the wind is? I smiled faintly. Where you are. Where someone truly loves me. He looked as if he'd forgotten how to breathe. Then he laughed, incredulous. You'd follow me halfway across the world? Please, I survived palace intrigue. I can survive airplane food. I scoffed. That did it. His laughter came real, bright, and helpless. He reached out, cupped my cheek, thumb brushing the corner of my mouth. You're unbelievable. And yet, here I am, I said, leaning into his touch. That evening we walked by the river. The city lights shimmered on the water, wind tugging at his coat. He dressed casually, just jeans and a hoodie, but the way he carried himself still screamed quiet power. He could buy half this street if he wanted to. And yet, when he looked at me, I was the richest man alive. Do you ever regret being here? Leaving everything you knew? He asked. No, I admitted. I'd rather stumble through this world than kneel in the last one. Modest as ever. Of course, I said solemnly. He laughed again. And before the sound could fade, I reached up and kissed him. It wasn't a grand, sweeping kiss. It was gentle, grounding. His lips were warm, tasting faintly of the coffee he'd insisted was artisanal. For a moment, I forgot everything, the palace, the pain, the centuries between who I was and who I'd become. When I pulled back, I whispered, So, are we leaving? He touched my forehead with his. If we go, it won't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is. Besides, I've already been through death. What's one more new beginning? He smiled then, the kind of smile that made you believe in futures. All right, together. The next week was chaos. Bureaucracy, packing, his family calling nonstop. He turned down their private jet because I said I wanted to see how commoners fly. He only chuckled and booked economy seats beside each other. On the last night before we left, rain began to fall soft, whispering against the window. I stood there watching it, thinking of another lifetime storms, the ones I'd faced alone behind locked palace doors. Wang Xian came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. Nervous, a little, but not scared. Good. You deserve skies, Mingyan, not ceilings. He rested his chin on my shoulder. I turned in his arms, smiled. Then let's go steal the sky. At the airport, as the final boarding call echoed, I took one last look at the city lights. Somewhere, perhaps in some forgotten history, my portrait still hung in a cold hall. A reminder of the man who waited, who loved too quietly. But that man wasn't me anymore. I'd been reborn twice now, once by tragedy, once by choice. And this time I was choosing love without fear. As we stepped toward the gate, Wang Xian reached for my hand. His fingers threaded through mine easily, naturally, as if they'd always known the way. Ready? He asked. I grinned. For once in my ridiculous existence, yes. We walked forward, laughter caught in the hum of engines, the promise of rain still in the air. And for the first time in 2 lives, I wasn't walking toward duty or destiny. I was walking toward us.